Hello and welcome to your IELTS Academic Writing Task 1 video. I'm Professor Nguyen, an IELTS instructor in the Avant English program. Here's the agenda for our video today. 4 aspects of Writing Task 1. Number 1, IELTS Writing Task 1, an overview. Number 2, IELTS Writing Task 1, the criteria. Number 3, vocabulary for describing trends. And number 4, the language of approximation. In the next section of this module, you are assigned a video that will help you with even more tips and approaches so you get the highest score possible. Let's get started. Let's start with an overview of Writing Task 1. For Writing Task 1, you're tasked to provide a report following a fixed format, reporting the major features of a graph or a chart or box or line chart or pie chart, a map, or a process. Now, let's review the structure of the Writing Task 1 format. Make sure you follow this report format. Notice there is no conclusion. Provide a report following a fixed format. First, the introduction. Answer the question, what am I looking at? Don't forget to also include how something is measured, whether it's in days or minutes or miles or dollars. Make sure it's a complete and accurate report. If there are 2 charts or 2 graphs, make sure you have 1 sentence per chart or graph making the description. After the introduction paragraph follows what we call the overall paragraph. In the overall paragraph, you want to make sure that it contains 2 trends, 2 highlights, or 2 comparisons. This is going to make up your body paragraph 1 and body paragraph 2 below. Next, the body paragraph 1. This should be the first trend that you listed. It should only talk about that trend that you listed first in your overall paragraph. Make sure that you only add information that you see in the chart, graph, map, or process. Each body paragraph should be 3 to 4 sentences, and make sure that the first sentence introduces the trend that you're going to talk about. After the introductory phrase, then start talking about the trend. This is where you want to use the facts to help support your argument. In the body paragraph 2, the same. Talk about trend number 2, highlight number 2, or comparison number 2. Again, do not introduce any new information that you had not previously mentioned. I often see this in students' papers. Another mistake in student papers is that they talk about things that aren't even there. You may want it to be there, but it's not there. So don't talk about it and don't include it. Only talk about things that you can actually see and verify in the report, chart, or graph. Budgeting time is essential for IELTS success all the way across the test. Successful time management is a skill to improve right now if you have this difficulty. You should do Writing Task 2 first and then complete Writing Task 1 last. Remember, Writing Task 2 counts twice the score of Writing Task 1. Budget 20 minutes for Writing Task 1. That's 40 minutes for Writing Task 2, 20 minutes for Writing Task 1. Take about 3 minutes to review the task they've given you. Is it a process, map, graph, bar chart? For a bar chart or graph, make sure that you look at and try to find 2 trends and keep these 2 trends in mind as you start to write your paper. Take about 15 minutes to write the report that we talked about above, and then a couple of minutes to proofread your task that you have written out. Make sure that you answer the questions that they want you to answer, that there's no spelling mistakes, and that you've used correct vocabulary, which we'll talk about later, that you, of all things, answer the question. That is, the 2 comparisons or the 2 highlights. The IELTS grading criteria for Writing Task 1 is similar to Writing Task 2. You receive a score of 0 to 9 in each of the 4 categories which we discuss below. Number 1, task achievement. Number 2, coherence and cohesion. Number 3, lexical resource. Number 4, grammatical range and accuracy. Let's review each of these now. Writing Task 1, task achievement. This is a first category, and this is what we're talking about will be for Band 7. The number 1 grading criteria, always remember, for the IELTS essay or writing task 1 is, do you answer the question? And answering the question in writing task 1 is coming up with the 2 trends, 2 comparisons, or the 2 highlights. They especially like comparisons, so that's something to be aware of. Do you explain the stages of the process clearly? Make sure you choose 2 trends that have enough data to support them. This is a mistake I often see of students. They often talk about the facts, 2 plus 2 equals 4, but after that, there's really nothing else to say. So make sure that you have more than facts. Make sure you have a trend, and then you use the facts to demonstrate that trend. Don't just write down facts. That's not going to cut it on the writing task 1. You need to come up with the trends or comparisons. Writing task 1 criteria, coherence and cohesion, band score 7. So coherence and cohesion deal with, is your paper logical? Is it laid out correctly? Is it laid out in a methodical way? Is it organized? Is there development throughout your report, that you start with one idea and you finish with another idea? Use of connectives like however or nevertheless, and use of signposting like first, second, or finally when appropriate. Writing task 1 criteria, lexical resource. This is just a fancy word for vocabulary. So a band 7 vocabulary score for writing task 1 means you have the essential vocabulary that you need, which we're going to talk about at the end of the video here. The different vocabulary terms that you need to be able to use on writing task 1. Be sure to use collocations, right? Like do your homework or make your bed or make breakfast. You want to do collocations on the writing test of the IELTS, whether it's in writing task 1 or in writing task 2. Use the language used to describe trends. This is something we look at the last part of the video. You also want to be proficient in using the language of approximation. Remember, there's not going to be an exact figure on the writing task 1. It may look like it's 60 right on the dot, but it's actually 61, it's 59, 59 and a half. They do that, of course, on purpose. They want you to use that language of approximation, which we discussed in the last part of the video. Next, writing task 1 criteria, grammar and accuracy for a band score 7. So a band score 7 has few grammar mistakes, if any. Use of complex grammar structures and good control of grammar, that your sentences make sense. That goes also into cohesion and coherence. So some of these categories kind of overlap. Now let's turn to vocabulary. Vocabulary for describing trends and vocabulary for approximation. Vocabulary for describing trends. So for example, nouns, example, increase or fluctuation or plateau. Verbs like to peak, to skyrocket, to dip. Collocations, to fluctuate wildly, to show an upward or downward trend. Adjectives, steady, dramatic, sharp, sudden, and adverbs, steadily, dramatically, sharply, and suddenly. Notice the link to the full table. For more vocabulary helping you to describe trends, go to tinyurl.com/gltrends. Now let's take a look at language for approximation. Just as you need language to help you describe trends, you also need language of approximation to help you, especially when you're looking at the charts or graphs on the writing task 1 for the IELTS. As you look at the chart here, we have some examples to help you out. For example, maybe the number is 58. You can say, well, that's more than 55, or you can say, well, just less than 60. Or 77%, just over 2/3. 20%, or a fifth. Or 98.5%. You could say, well, almost all. And lastly, 30%, just under a third. So these are some examples of the language of approximation. To find out more, please visit this website, tinyurl.com/gltrends. GLPOLY. So now you have a better idea of the type of vocabulary that you need, in addition to the other vocabulary, to help you to describe trends and also the language of approximation. Let's recap now what we've covered so far today. Number one, we reviewed an overview of writing task 1, using the correct format, reading how to read the graphs and charts, how to answer your introduction paragraph, your overall paragraph, and finding the 2 trends, 2 highlights, or 2 comparisons. The writing task 1 criteria: make sure that your paper has few grammar mistakes, it's understandable, you use good vocabulary, learn and use this vocabulary that we just went over for the approximation and also for describing trends. Number 3, the vocabulary to describe trends. And finally, number 4, the language of approximation. Be sure to review the 2 websites we linked to from this Canvas module so you can review more of the language on those web pages. Thank you very much for joining me today for this review of the Writing Task 1 requirements. Good luck on the IELTS.